The Girl Who Built a Spider by George Brewington. Chapters 19 through 21. Chapter 19, Bonnie. The doctor may have to go too, Zachary had said. But what did he mean by that? He'd kick his uncle out of his own lab? But Miss Curie seemed genuinely afraid of him, like he really would eliminate Thomas and even Dr. Flax if he thought it was necessary. Zachary seemed like nothing more than a grumpy butler who'd rather be anywhere else. But what if he was protecting the very invention that would change the world forever, while the doctor was distracted looking for his lost son? What if it was Zachary who would return a balance to the climate and ensure the end of hurricanes? "Dad?" Teresa asked when they were halfway home. "Yeah, baby girl?" "If I ran away, how long would you look for me?" Her father was horrified. "You're not watching the road, Dad." "Teresa, how could you even ask that? I would look for you every day and every night. I would never stop until I found you." She was quiet for a minute. "I mean, what if it was, becoming obvious that I didn't want to be found? How long would you look? For days? Months? Years? Even if you knew I was trying as hard as I could to run away?" "Teresa," he said, "you're scaring me. Why are you asking me this?" Teresa wasn't sure herself. "Yes," her father said. "I would give up everything. My job wouldn't matter anymore. Eating and sleeping wouldn't matter. I would do everything to find you, and I'd do everything I could to understand why you didn't want to come home to me. And then I'd make sure I never lost you again." He was breathing fast. He was gripping the steering wheel. Still, she couldn't help asking more. "But what if, Dad, for some reason, you were given only two real choices, to save the planet or to find me? Think about it for a second. You might lose me forever, but you could potentially save hundreds, maybe thousands, from losing their homes or drowning or being swept away." He pulled the car over into the gas station and parked. When her father looked at her, he was serious. "Nothing matters more to me than you, Teresa. Don't you know that? Nothing else. No one else. I lost your mother. I blame myself for that, and I probably always will. I refuse to ever lose you, no matter what, okay? Now, Teresa, tell me the truth. Is everything all right?" She was trying to figure out if it was possible to love a robot as much as a child. Could you think of a robot as a child? She loved her spider, but did she love her like Dr. Flax loved Thomas Edison? What if her spider could talk? What if she could think? What if one day her spider tried to run away from Teresa for reasons of her own? She realized that she had forgotten to answer her father. His eyes were welling up with tears. "Dad, stop. I'm sorry." "You know that I love you, Teresa, right? You know that." "Yes, Daddy, I know that. I love you too." She wiped his eyes and took a deep breath. "Tell me this and be honest. Is there something about the laboratory I should know?" Oh man, panicking. She should have never started with these questions. Now that she had to give him something, like the forklift. If she said nothing was the matter, he wouldn't believe her. If she told him the whole truth, his mind would be blown, and he'd never let her return to Flax Industries. "It's just that Dr. Flax loves that robot boy very much, and he seems like he cares more about finding him and fixing him than working on his invention that will stop hurricanes. That's all." "Well," her father said, pulling the car out of the gas station and back into traffic, "nothing wrong with that. I still can't believe that boy is a robot. He must seem very real to the doctor, just like your spider seems real to you and me." "What?" Teresa couldn't believe what she was hearing. "My spider seems real to you?" Her father started laughing instead of freaking out, which was a relief. "Of course she does. You love her so much. You're always tinkering with her and talking to her. She's your baby, just like you're mine. I half expect her to talk back to you someday. She's quite something, you know. You should be proud of her. You should be proud of yourself for building her." Teresa started giggling. "She? You think my spider's a girl?" "Well," her father said, "what do you think?" Teresa already knew. Yeah, she's a girl. She needs a name, though. How about Miss Spider? Dad, that's a horrible name. What? Seriously, Miss Spider was one of the best characters in James and the Giant Peach. I thought you'd appreciate the literary reference. No, the truth was, Teresa already had a name in mind. Maybe it had been floating in her thoughts for some time. I like Bonnie, after Mom. I don't know if Mom would have wanted a robot spider named after her, but I want to call her Bonnie. Then her dad's tears really did come. She would absolutely loved that, baby girl. Teresa wished she had driven Bonnie home that night. She missed her. She was excited for tomorrow morning at the lab. She thought she might install a spring, or maybe multiple springs, that would allow Bonnie to jump, at least a few feet to clear small objects. Although the more she added, the heavier she would grow, and so would become that much more difficult to launch, especially if she was carrying a driver and a passenger. Teresa was up very late researching possible jumping mechanisms on her computer when there was a familiar sound at her window. This time, she threw open the window. Thomas Edison, where have you been? Do you know Dr. Flax has been looking for you every day? Thomas was still dressed in his puffy winter coat, gloves, and hat. He stood on the top rung of his ladder, looking as serious as ever. I know, he said urgently. But even though I can't explain right now, you have to understand that if the doctor knew what I needed to destroy, he thinks of you like a son. Do you know how worried he is about you? Thomas paused for a second. I know, he said, and I love him very much. Then why do you keep running away? Talk to him. Because that would put Marie in danger, Thomas whispered. I think you'll understand after you see what I must destroy. Please, all I ask is that tomorrow you let me in. Then the ladder started vibrating, and Thomas nearly fell off. They both looked down. Teresa's father was standing at the bottom, giving the ladder a good shake. I see you, Thomas Edison, her father said. Any boy who wants to talk to my daughter needs to ring the front doorbell, robot or not. Thomas looked back at Teresa with desperation in his glowing blue eyes. Tomorrow, he said. Promise me you'll let me in. If you do, I promise to explain everything to you and my father and my sister. Her father shook the ladder again. Young man, I'm talking to you. Then at Teresa's surprise, Thomas bent his knees down, and Teresa could hear the slow whine of something pressurizing. Thomas bent down farther and pressed 2 release valves on his knees. Then he launched up onto the roof. Hey! Her father yelled. But Thomas was already running. He scurried to the far side of the roof, jumped into their largest live oak tree, then tumbled down through the branches until he finally hit the ground right on his head. Teresa hurried downstairs to their porch to see if he was okay, but he had already picked himself up and had run halfway down the street. Chapter 20, Pineapples. As they drove to Flax Industries the next morning, Teresa thought about Thomas's pressurized boots. They certainly worked well for a 3-foot-tall boy with 2 feet. Could she build something similar for a spider with 8 feet that ended in points? She decided that would be her project for the morning. She couldn't wait to get started. But when they arrived and Teresa saw Miss Curie at the front door with her arms crossed, she sensed that today might not go as she had planned. You think she's all right? Her father asked as they pulled in. Yeah, Teresa assured him. She's normally like that. All business. But something was different. Miss Curie waited until Teresa's father had driven completely out of sight before she said, We will wait here for the others. Actually, I'm ready to get started. I wanted to find something to use to make my spider jump. I was thinking about maybe 8 pressurized boots, 1 for each foot. You won't be working in your laboratory today, Miss Curie said curtly, and it was clear that Teresa shouldn't protest. They stood waiting for Ashley and John without a single word said between them. Ashley arrived first, and then she stepped out of her parents' car. She immediately understood she should also be quiet. John arrived late, of course, and Miss Curie stared daggers at his raucous family van until it, too, was out of sight. "What's going on?" John whispered to Teresa, but she was too scared to guess. Miss Curie said, "Follow me, children," and they did. She led them to a room on the first floor of the eastern wing named Leather. Teresa was surprised there would be such a laboratory at Flax Industries. She couldn't imagine Dr. Flax ever deliberately harm a cow or an alligator or any other animal whose skin could be fashioned into suitcases or shoes. But when Miss Curie pressed the secret code into the rainbow-colored 13-wedge animal combo lock, the steel gate opened to reveal no animals of any kind. Teresa knew this place. It had once been a Mexican restaurant called Chacha's, where Teresa and her father would often have a later dinner on days he worked. They would drink virgin pina coladas and eat so many complimentary chips they couldn't finish their enchilada plates. And then they would order sopapillas anyway. It had been one of her mother's favorite places, too. That's what her father said every time they went. All that remained of the restaurant were the brightly painted tables and chairs bolted to the floor, and the colorful mosaic of a bull munching grass in a sunny field. But now all the furniture, the tables, the chairs, the bar, was covered with piles and piles of pineapples. "Quite a lot of fruit, isn't it?" Miss Curie said with a chuckle that made them all immediately suspicious. "Let me show you what's in the other room." Miss Curie opened the door to the large banquet hall that had once been used for private parties. A machine as long as the room stretched out before them. At one end of the machine was a large, gaping mouth of steel teeth. At the other was a chute with a whole assortment of sprayers and heating elements. The center was a long brass tube with a digital display and a window allowing you to see inside. A conveyor belt ran through the whole thing, from teeth to chute. Next to the toothy end was a basket of pineapple tops. Miss Curie turned to face Teresa, Ashley, and John. "Allow me to introduce you to one of Dr. Flax's most brilliant inventions, the flax fiber weaverator." "The what?" John asked. "I know," Miss Curie said, holding her clipboard to her chest. "It's not the best name, but our pineapple leather fashions are some of our most profitable products, second only to the bionic baby bottom buffer. You've seen our pineapples growing outside. At Flax Industries, we use every single bit of the plant. Humans like yourselves eat the fruit, and the remaining roughage we put in this machine." She flipped a switch on the flax fiber reverberator, and its digital display lit up. The conveyor belt began to roll, and its steel teeth started gnashing. Then Miss Curie picked up a handful of pineapple tops and threw them in. The fiber reverberator shredded them instantly, and Miss Curie invited them to come take a closer look through the window. "The fiber reverberator chews the leaves in a fine pulp. Then the pulp is soaked, cured, mashed, heated, soaked again, sprayed with salts and other protective minerals, then finally dyed with natural pigments. All in 7 minutes and 42 seconds. They patiently waited for 7 minutes and 42 seconds. Then the fiber reverberator dinged like a toaster, and out of the chute rolled a strip of beautiful indigo-colored pineapple leather. "You see, one cruelty-free, sturdy piece of leather to wear as a belt, suitable for both boys and girls. Who would like this one?" Ashley was wearing a dress again, no polka dots this time, and Teresa's shorts didn't have belt loops, so John took it and replaced the belt he was wearing. "Cool!" he said excitedly. "It says Flax on it." Miss Curie brought their attention to the far wall where aprons and shoes and briefcases and hats all hung from hooks. They were all imprinted with the brand Flax. "You're welcome to take any of these home as souvenirs to show your family and friends how productive you were this summer. The leather you make will be sent to our talented tailors right here in Charleston, just a few blocks away. If you work hard, and make enough leather, maybe we can visit their shop on the last day of your internship. Ashley raised her hand politely. Yes, Miss Dean. Excuse me, but what do you mean by the leather we make? Miss Curie smiled wickedly and nodded toward a table and 3 chairs in an adjacent room. On the table lay 3 butcher knives and 3 pineapple cutters. Miss Curie made a note on her clipboard with her pen and calmly waved her hand, suggesting they take a seat. Our new manager has determined that you 3 would better serve Flax Industries by working in this room. You will cut the tops off the pineapples and carve out the fruit for human consumption. You will put the tops of the fiber reverberator to make flax leather. You will do this for the remainder of the summer. Then Miss Curie rolled slowly toward them and bent forward so that her glowing green eyes were level with theirs. Ashley tried to shrink into her shoes, and even John seemed to lose his voice. She came nose to nose with Teresa, who so badly wanted to curl into a ball, but she didn't break eye contact. When you are a guest in another's home, it is considered quite rude to eavesdrop on private family conversations. Your snooping has put my brother and me in more danger, and your reckless escapades with the good doctor's sensory amplifier and purgator have made it clear that you are too immature to have your own personal laboratories. Therefore, starting today, you will cease to be dangerous to our company and begin to be useful. Congratulations! I'm sure spending the next 9 weeks in this room slicing pineapples together will give you 3 an everlasting bond and friendship that will last you until you all expire. Or at least until high school. Wait a minute, John said. That's not what Dr. Flax wants at all. He wants us to work on our inventions. He's right, Miss Curie, Ashley protested. I'm growing 28 different kinds of algae in my lab. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. If we could discuss this with Dr. Flax. There's been no misunderstanding, Miss Curie interrupted sharply. We are all very upset that the good doctor has taken leave. But until he returns, we are under new management. New management? Teresa asked quietly. Miss Curie's eyes flickered with fury. She no longer tapped her pen nervously against her clipboard. She no longer twitched. Mr. Flax has taken control of the laboratory. Mr.? They all asked in unison. The good doctor's nephew, of course, Mr. Zachary Flax. Teresa couldn't believe Miss Curie could be so accepting of this new arrangement. She had to ask, Didn't he threaten to dismantle you and your brother yesterday? Why aren't you looking for the doctor? Why are you helping Zachary? Miss Curie rolled backward on her silver ball and crossed her arms. A sign of maturity is accepting one's fate, children. My fate is to protect my family even while they resist my help. Your fates are to chop and to slice. Teresa, frozen with fear, stood there staring. Miss Curie was clearly enjoying the moment as she rolled around them in a slow circle. You 3 should stop lollygagging and start working. You will find plastic bins in the kitchen for the fruit. You will no longer be served salads at the gazebo. However, you are free to eat all the pineapple you can consume until you are released at 5 o'clock. Miss Curie turned, rolled to the door, and punched the code into the rainbow-colored 13-wedge animal combo lock. She turned to face them one last time. I want all 3 of you to know I believe in you. Then she rolled out the gate before it slammed down shut, locking and sealing them inside for the day. Chapter 21. Begin with what you know. Without a word, Ashley picked up a plastic tub from the kitchen, sat it next to the table, and took a seat in one of the 3 chairs. Then she picked up a pineapple from the pile, chopped off the top with one of the large and very sharp knives, and began to core the fruit out of one of the slicers. She put the fruit in the tub, threw the top into the basket for the fiber reverberator, and reached for another pineapple. What in the world do you think you're doing? John asked her in disbelief. Ashley shrugged. I'm slicing and cutting. If Mr. Flax is in charge and he wants us to make pineapple leather, then I'm going to make pineapple leather. And you can bet I'll make twice as much as the two of you. John shook his head. You definitely will, because I'm not making any. Man, you're such a sheep. Mr. Flax? His name is Zach, and he's not in charge of anything. Dr. Flax hasn't even been gone a whole day, and you're already doing whatever he says? Zach Flax is a big old creep, and he obviously wants to take over the place. Ashley picked up another pineapple, chopped off the top, and sliced out the fruit. It looks like he has, Ashley said matter-of-factly. Has what? Teresa asked. Taken over the place. John stared at her. So that's it? He said. You give up? You don't care about your 28 species of algae or your lab or getting your dirt-flavored cookies and next year's flax inventions for a Better World catalog? You're a pineapple girl now? Ashley didn't even look at him. You do whatever you want, she said. We'll see who gets a letter of recommendation to the best high schools in the country at the end of the summer. John smirked, pulling at his short tuft of hair like he wanted to yank it right out in frustration. If you think Zach Flax cares about getting you into a fancy high school, you're being ridiculous. Teresa didn't say anything while they argued. She was thinking about something curious. Miss Curie normally couldn't stand not knowing where Dr. Flax was and if he was safe. And yet, he had been gone since yesterday, and she seemed remarkably calm. She was almost delighted that Zachary was in charge. There had been no desperation in her voice. There had been no furious pen tapping on her clipboard. There had been no twitching. Miss Curie, for a robot programmed to protect the doctor at all cost, had seemed quite content. It was all very suspicious. John, meanwhile, stomped over to the rainbow-colored 13-wedge animal combo lock and started punching in random combinations of 3. What are you doing? Teresa finally asked him. I'm getting out of here. That's what I'm doing. I don't know about you two, but I've got a bubble organ to build. You're not going anywhere, Ashley said sharply as she whacked off the top of a pineapple. Okay, boss, he said sarcastically. John continued punching in combinations. Ashley chopped and sliced. Teresa felt helpless. Maybe her dad had been right. They showed up to this laboratory every morning, not ever really knowing how dangerous their day would be. And now they were locked in here, forced to cut pineapples all day. They weren't even getting paid, and she certainly couldn't spend a whole summer in this room eating nothing but pineapple. John punched in 3 animal combos faster and faster. Teresa watched him for a while and then asked, How are you sure it's a sequence of 3? My lab code is a 3 animal combos. I'm guessing all the rooms are. He punched in black-tipped shark, red-tailed hawk, American alligator. Nothing. My combination is 7 animals, Teresa said. And mine is 6, Ashley said, although she'd been pretending to ignore them. You're wasting your time. Do you know how long it'll take you to try every combination? Probably take me all summer, John shrugged. First, I'll try all the combinations of 3, then 4, then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. Eventually, I'll get it, and you'll still be sitting here slicing like a chump, pineapple girl. Ashley chopped off a pineapple top. Whack! Then she sliced out the fruit and threw it in the tub. Splat! She dumped the leaves in the basket, and Teresa could feel her growing anger. John punched in black-tipped shark, red-tailed hawk, cannonball jellyfish. Nothing. A summer spent like this would not lead to an everlasting bond in friendship. As Teresa watched John punch in animals and Ashley whack off pineapple tops, she did think there was something strange here. Why would Dr. Flax assign John a 3-animal combo, Ashley 6, and her 7? Surely not because her lab required a more secure password than Ashley's or John's. She was quite familiar with computers and login passwords. You usually picked something that you liked or easily remembered. The password to her laptop computer, for example, was her favorite book, Wild Robot. No one would guess that, but she could remember it. If the doctor really had assigned all the rooms in the laboratory different codes of different lengths and animal selections, how in the world could Dr. Flax or Zachary or even a robot like Miss Curie remember them all? There had to be at least 100 different rooms in the laboratory, which meant at least 100 different codes to keep track of. Dr. Flax must have created an easy way to remember them all. A pattern, maybe. John punched in black-tipped shark, red-tailed hawk, copperhead snake. Nothing. Ashley chopped and sliced and put the fruit in the tub and the leaves in the basket. But what was the pattern? When trying to solve a puzzle, it's always best to begin with what you know. Teresa knew her combination of 7. Boykin Spaniel, loggerhead sea turtle, blue crab, red-tailed hawk, great egret. Why was John's only 3 and Ashley's 6? There had to be a reason behind that. What about John was a 3? What about Ashley was a 6? What about Teresa was a 7? Did it have to do with their inventions? She didn't see how the number 7 had anything to do with her spider. 7 for first place, 6 for second, and 3 for third? That didn't make sense. What else could it... Oh, wait a minute. Hey, John, there's no H in your name, right? Nope, don't need it, just Jon. John punched in black-tipped shark, red-tailed hawk, pig frog. Nothing. Right, she said softly with a smile. Ashley was spelled with 6 letters, Teresa 7. There were only 13 animals on the lock, but they might represent letters. She didn't have a pen and paper, so she spelled out the alphabet on the floor with pineapple leaves taken from the basket. What are you doing? Ashley asked. Getting us out of here, she said. I don't want to chop pineapples all day, and I don't think Dr. Flax wants us to either. John, what's the combo for your lab? He didn't mind telling. Cannonball jellyfish, bottlenose dolphin, great egret. He was too curious. He stopped punching in random combos to watch Teresa carve jellyfish on a leaf with a knife. She placed it by the J. She carved dolphin on another leaf and placed it by the O, then egret by N. Then she filled in the letters from her name, spaniel for T, sea turtle for H, crab for both E and R, hawk for S, and egret for A. I guess your theory doesn't work, John said. You don't get egret and crab down twice for different letters. I could be wrong, Teresa pondered, but there are 13 wedges. Double that, and you get 26. And there are 26 letters in the alphabet. Each animal might represent 2 letters. Ashley, what's your password? Ashley furrowed her brow. Chop, slice, fruit in the tub, leaves in the basket. She pretended she hadn't heard the question. Ashley? John asked, staring her down. You two are crazy if you think I'm telling you my password, she said. What's wrong with you, Ashley? John said, throwing his hands in the air. What do you possibly think we're going to do with your combo? Break into your lab and steal your pond scum? Chop, slice, fruit in the tub, leaves in the basket. Ashley didn't say a word. But Ashley, like Teresa, was an inventor, and inventors can't resist a puzzle, even if attempting it might get them into serious trouble. After chopping and slicing 3 more pineapples, she got out of her chair and stood next to Teresa and John to study the alphabet made of leaves. You might be onto something, she finally said. The first 3 animals of my combination line up with your key, great egret, red-tailed hawk, and loggerhead sea turtle. A-S-H. But she would say no more. The silence was loaded with tension. John couldn't take it. Well, give it up, Ashley. Keep talking. What's the animal for L? They all knew that was the last letter they needed. The name of this room is Leather, Teresa said. The combinations are obviously the names of each room. That's how they're easy to remember. You can get into any room at Flax Industries by knowing the 2 letters each animal represents. All we need is L, and we can bust out of here. And if you would just tell us, Ashley, we'll have the combo. Ashley's face turned to stone. Her password was hers, and she liked having a secret all her own. "Oh, for crying out loud, Ashley!" John groaned, putting his face in his hands. "Please," Teresa asked her quietly. "It's so sticky in here. There's pineapple juice everywhere. If you want to keep cutting pineapples, you can, but I want to get out of here and work on my spider. You don't have to tell us the last animal of your combo, and the why can be all yours." That was true. Ashley thought about this, and Teresa could see she wanted to give in. "Pig frog," Ashley whispered for a long and torturous pause. And John, as quick as a pig frog, punched it in. Pig frog, blue crab, great egret, Boykin spaniel, loggerhead sea turtle, blue crab, blue crab. The glowing padlock flashed all its colors at once and softly dinged. The metal gate slid upward. They were free.